infuriating the far left, Democrats, socialists, and communists. It's Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
I cannot tell you how much schadenfreude and pleasure I get when I hear someone doing a voiceover talking about filthy leftist stalkers. I'm like, I made that up. That's me. Okay, guys, you were listening to the Angela Box Show. I'm actually super, super thrilled to have a man who has been through hell and back. His name is Chris Beck, former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, like the biggest, baddest Navy SEAL you could be. And Chris's story is so fascinating because after he came out of the military, he decided to transition. And now that Pride Month is almost here, and gird your loins, as I say, June is almost upon us, Chris is transitioned, and then he's now detransitioning. And he has a warning for everybody out there who is falling in line with this cult, that it is dangerous and it is coming for our kids. So welcome, Chris Beck, to the Angela Box Show. Thank you so much for coming on with me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so tell everyone a little bit, kind of like the genesis of your story and how you decided you wanted to transition into being a transgender woman, and what changed your mind.
Okay, well, so I grew up in a very Christian atmosphere where the word sex wasn't even said, and I knew nothing about the birds and the bees. I was actually a virgin until I was like 23 years old. So the whole stuff was very confusing to me. So, and just like a lot of girls who were tomboys, I did have some jealousy from my older sister, and I had some other things going on. And so it was a little bit of gender confusion, as a kid going through puberty. But because I grew up the way I grew up, I never had any outlets, and I never had any explanations. I never had anything going on. So take all of that as my childhood, then go into the military. So for 20 years, I was in the Navy SEALs. And again, I was in a very, tight environment where, I didn't do anything. I was never into a lot of stuff. And I still had all these thoughts in the back of my head, but I never pursued any of it. I retired in 2011, and now I'm done. I'm going, okay, I did my entire life journey. I went through the SEALs, 20 years, I'm retired. And so I started kind of looking at the world through some different eyes. And so I started really digging into, I was divorced a couple times at that time. So I've gone through marriage, and I have kids, and I'm still like highly confused about a lot of stuff because I never had explanations, and I never dug into this. So I started kind of, going around the community a little bit, the LGBTQ community, the alphabet community, the rainbow community, whatever they want to go by now. So, and as soon as I started stepping my foot into that community, and especially being a little bit femme, they love bomb. And love bombing is a term, the Moonies, I think, the cult, the Moonies came up with this term, love bombing, and they did the technique. The technique is, as soon as somebody starts coming around, you love bomb them. You hug them and you drape them with validation. You drape them with every accolade and all the other stuff you can give them. And then they're going, oh my gosh, I'm totally turned away from my SEAL team brothers sometimes. I'm turned away from my family. I'm turned away from everywhere else. I step foot in this community, and suddenly I am validated, fully validated, accolades and love bombing. So as soon as that started happening, I was like, wow, I found a community that accepts me. And so I started going into it more. Then I went into it more. And the next thing you know, I'm getting dressed up in female clothing. And before I would do it a little bit, but it wasn't an identity. It was just me just trying to figure stuff out. Now it's turned into a full-blown identity. Now I'm fully, oh my gosh, I can be Christian. I can be happy. I have people that love me. And so I'm doing it, and I'm doing full-blown. And so then I come out in the open. I'm like, when I come out in the open, I have corporations going, oh my gosh, Kristen, hey, come give us a speech. So I'm in all these corporations now. I'm giving speeches. I'm part of a speakers bureau now, giving these freedom speeches about liberty and about what America should be about. It's about true liberty for all. And they're paying me $15,000 to give a 1-hour speech from this speakers bureau in Washington, D.C. called Leading Authorities. So I'm doing really good, as I thought. But then I start really digging into this. Then I start my master's degree in mental health counseling. Now I'm going into deep psychology. I'm going into human development. I'm going into childhood development. I'm doing all this stuff in my master's degree. And I'm starting to really find out. I was going, wow, this is what happened. And then I start regretting. I start kind of digging in deeper. Then I start finding all the old demons, the demons that were there from childhood, the demons that were trauma as a kid, the demons that were there as an adult in the SEAL teams, PTSD and traumatic brain injury and all these other traumas. And I started going, wow, this is the road I took. And then I started regretting this road. And then I started going, oh, my gosh. Then I meet up with this lady, Courtney, who is now my fiancé, and she's also digging in. She's also a women and gender study graduate and has a lot of other knowledge. So she's facing me with a lot of the demons. She's telling me, well, why would you do this? Why did you think you were a woman? Why do all these trans people only do the stereotypes? Why do they get dressed up the way they get dressed up? And I said, why are you doing it? And I started asking myself the same questions. So this is why the transgender community right now, they do 1 or 2 sessions with a psychologist, and then they start dressing up and doing all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they get surgeries. Once you get surgeries, you're kind of done. It's really hard to go back after you get surgeries. So they only do 1 or 2 sessions with psychologists because they're afraid to face the real truth. They're afraid to face the demons. I faced all these demons, and I saw what I was doing. I highly regret me giving any speech. I don't regret giving speeches about liberty because I do believe in liberty, true liberty. I don't believe in traps. I don't believe in love bombing. I don't believe in the fake narrative that they give. There's only one side. They never give the full truth. The fact is, for these kids, before puberty especially, 80% of the children who are having gender confusion, 80% of those tomboys, 80% of those boys who are just like to get dressed up or wear pink once in a while, 80% of them will alleviate. All that confusion is gone when they're out of puberty. So you got to figure 8 out of 10 of these kids that they're indoctrinating, they're love bombing. 8 out of 10 of them are not transgender. 8 out of 10 of them are not gay. 8 out of 10 of them are not anything. They're just confused kids, just trying to be kids, figuring out their life. 8 out of 10 of those girls who are tomboys, they're just tomboys. They're just goofing off. They just want to be with their older brother. They want to do whatever. All these kids are being indoctrinated. They're getting destroyed. They're getting surgeries. They're getting double mastectomies. They're on puberty blockers. You know, every one of them kids that starts puberty blockers, they're going to be on stuff their entire lives. They're now drugs. They're pharmaceutical indoctrinated. They're going to be on them for their whole life. They will never have an orgasm. If they do those puberty blockers as a kid, those kids' sexual identity is being destroyed. They won't even have an orgasm when they get old. And nobody's telling them all this truth. If they do any one of these gender surgeries, double mastectomy, you can't go back. If you're a female tomboy and you get a double mastectomy, you cannot go back. And a lot of surgeries go bad. The leading cause of death in America is medical malpractice, or surgeons who do things wrong. That's a leading cause of death. Why don't we ever talk about that? So when you step foot inside of that hospital and you start getting these elective surgeries, gender surgery is elective. If you get one of these elective surgeries, you have a really high chance of never getting out of that hospital. You will be in a hospital forever. You're a permanent patient. You will be on drugs the rest of your life. That's a fact. One of these gender surgeries is $400,000 in the pockets of that hospital. One surgery. You don't think this is about money? You don't find that suspicious? I like that little term. You don't find it suspicious? There are so many things I can talk about right now. I know we only have a very short time for me to talk about this. That's why I'm kind of rambling really fast. I want to get this information out there. I want parents. You need to know the truth. These kids, 80% of them, will grow out of it. They're not suicidal. They're tricking you and telling you your kid is suicidal. That's a lie. Most of those kids right now, if you brought them in there with a therapist that was actually truly a therapist, not an indoctrination specialist, if they really got true therapy, you would find that they are not suicidal. They just have anxiety. They have a bunch of other stuff. I could go through the entire thing. You don't do surgeries on kids if they have, anorexia. You don't cut them up if they have bulimia. You don't cut them up if they have, some other stuff going on in their lives. Kids go through a lot of stuff. Being a kid is tough. Being a kid nowadays, oh my gosh, they're being indoctrinated into surgery and big pharma, drugs. This is just so wrong. We're destroying our child's lives. We're destroying the entire next generation is being destroyed by adults who are greedy for money, who are greedy for drugs and pharmaceutical and surgeries, and it's all about money. And it just makes me so angry.
Yeah.
So I'm angry about this.
No, and I mean, it comes through. And the thing that makes me angry is that when you were transgender, let's say, and your name was Kristen, and you wrote this book called Lady Valor, you were on CNN and you were feted by all the quote right people, and as long as your narrative matched the dominant narrative, that you were celebrated. Yep. And the second you were like, let me rethink this, and thank God you did not have your bottom surgery, I might add. But the minute you started to rethink this, they dropped you from your speakers bureau. No media wanted to talk to you. And you've been blackballed. And it's like that with anybody who tells the truth. And I think the thing you said about
it's a cult.
It's a cult. It's absolutely a cult.
It's a full cult.
And the fact that, these people, like you said, big pharma, I mean, we saw this go on with the Rona crap, with the vaccines. They want you drugged up. They make tons and tons of money. Vanderbilt University got busted with saying, wow, we're going to have permanent patients with these kids. And I didn't know that until we talked yesterday that you did not have an orgasm if you've had these surgeries. I had no idea, or got puberty blockers the rest of your life. I mean, I knew these people became sterile, which is, again, part of their agenda, but I had no idea that they didn't have any sexual gratification. And it's just, if people really knew this, and the fact that they only had 2 counseling sessions before putting these kids onto puberty blockers that are going to change their lives forever, it is disgusting. It is evil. Chris, what are you doing now?
Evil.
What are you doing now, and how can people reach you and help what you're doing?
So my social media, all of my social media is the same. It's Valor with the number 4 US, Valor for Us. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see kind of the things I'm working on. And I'm talking about this, left and right. I also go to a lot of churches and I give sermons. I'm a minister, and I've been into God my whole life. I just got confused for a little while. But there is a God, our Father, a universal one. There is, one thing that we all need to look at, and that one thing is very powerful, and it's what created this entire universe.
Amen.
And we are made in that image.
Amen.
And the image of God is what I celebrate. The image of God doesn't need to be touched by drugs or surgery. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I won't even go near a doctor. They are butchers.
Amen.
So I just think that God made us in a wonderful way. And if we just look at that wonderful thing that we are, the human being is such a complicated, amazing, beautiful machine that we don't understand, and we are destroying it. We're destroying it by all these pharmaceuticals. We're destroying it by chemtrails in the skies. We're destroying it by so many things. The processed food that we eat has, antifreeze in it. You would not believe the amount of foods that actually have antifreeze.
Yes.
What is it? Glycol, glycerin, something, glycol. It's the same stuff they use for antifreeze in our food.
Well, thank you, Chris Beck, so much for being with me today. You're listening to the Angela Bach Show. I'll be right back.